Hey everyone, this is our last video for the book of James. Who knew we could make 5 chapters last so long? I've learned heaps through doing this, and I really hope that you've been blessed as well. So this week we've been thinking about 2 verses, James chapter 5, verses 19 and 20. So if you want to look them up to refresh your memory, then just do that now. If you've been reading through James with us, then you'll know that one of the main themes is faith in action. And a big part of putting our faith into action is obeying the royal law. The royal law is love your neighbor as you love yourself. James doesn't let us get away with just believing and saying the right things. He wants to make sure we put our beliefs into action, into practice. So it makes sense that he would end the book by telling us to look out for each other. James ends the letter by talking to people in the church again, encouraging them to reach out to those who have wandered from the truth. These verses remind me of a story that Jesus told about a shepherd and his sheep. It's in Matthew 18:12-13. Jesus said, "What do you think? If a man owns 100 sheep and one of them wanders away, will he not leave the 99 on the hills and go look for the one that wandered off? And if he finds it, he is happier about that one sheep than about the 99 that did not wander off." The sheep in this story represent people who have walked away from the truth or walked away from relationship with God. God's heart is always for those people. His heart is always for the lost. So as we learn to listen to him and do what he says, he will turn our hearts towards the lost as well. Like we've seen all the way through the book of James, it's about relationship. One of the most famous things Jesus said was, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me." So when James talks about someone wandering from the truth, he's talking about someone who's wandered not just from a set of rules or principles, but from close relationship with God. I think that's really important to keep in mind when we read these verses. So it's a relationship that people have wandered from, and it's through relationship that they can be brought back. When someone's wandered away from a relationship with God, when they've lost that connection, they can be brought back by those of us who still have the connection. Verse 20 says, "Whoever turns a sinner from the error of their way will save them from death and cover over a multitude of sins." Now, when I read that, I think that's a huge responsibility. I define sin as anything that's not loving God or loving others. It's like a sickness that causes death in our relationships with both God and each other, and it will ultimately lead to death, physical and spiritual death, separation from God. That's why when someone turns to God, they are saved from death. But turning to God also covers over a multitude of sins, because all our sins are forgiven and the course of our life is changed. As God changes us from the inside, we turn from sin. We stop doing the selfish things that hurt us and the people around us. And we begin to bring God's life into all of our relationships. One person whose life is transformed by God can change the lives of generations of people. If you think I'm exaggerating, think of a person who turns from addiction and how the direction of their family has changed. I know a lot of people who have that testimony, where once they brought death to their relationships, now they bring life, and God will bless them and all who are connected to them, even future generations. I don't know if you've seen the movie The Butterfly Effect, where a guy tries to save someone he loves from the effects of her father's sin. Whatever he tries, people get hurt. Now, I've seen God transform people, so instead of bringing that pain to their families, they bring life. And it's actually why I follow God, because our world desperately needs that. So if you're anything like me, you'll be feeling a bit guilty about not talking to many people about Christ. Maybe guilty enough to call that person that you haven't seen around for a while. But if these verses make us feel guilty, I think we've missed the point. The 2 verses before talk about Elijah, who was a human being even as we are. He prayed earnestly that it would not rain, and it did not rain on the land for 3.5 years. Again he prayed, and the heavens gave rain, and the earth produced its crops. Now my question is, who caused the rain to come? Was it Elijah or was it God? It's God's story. Elijah was just invited to be part of it. Did God need Elijah to pray before he could bring rain? No, but he wanted him to. And it's the same with us. God doesn't need us, but he chooses to involve us, to bless us and bless others through us. If you want to read the full story, it's in 1 Kings 17 to 18. That's a crazy story. Now, one cool thing I noticed is that before Elijah prayed for rain, he heard it coming. There had been no rain for years, but Elijah heard it, and he earnestly prayed. He prayed, and then he told his servant to go and look. He prayed, and he sent him to look 7 times. Before the servant said, "I can see a cloud as small as a man's hand rising from the sea." Then Elijah said, "Let's go before we get soaked." Now that's faith. God is the one who does the work, but he wants those of us who follow him to be part of it. In the past, I've fallen into the trap of thinking, God needs me, like he can't keep track of his own people, and I need to work really hard just to catch those that are falling through the gaps. I need to go out there and convince people to return to God, and I'd better use the right words, because if I mess it up, they won't listen and it'll be all my fault. No, it's not all up to me, not all up to us. But if we respond to God's leading with expectation, lives will be changed. So I just want to finish this study by praying for you, because I believe that prayer works, even through video. God, I pray that you bless everyone who watches this video. I pray that they learn to listen to your voice and do what you say. And I thank you, because I know that as they get to know you more, you will change them. You will bless them and everyone connected to them. And I especially pray for those who don't know you, God, or who have wandered away from a relationship with you. For those people, God is searching for you like a shepherd who searches for his lost sheep. You are always on his mind. And like James says, if you come near to God, he will come near to you.